Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, sponsored by the Draft Professors. Join with me, our draft professors, Drew and Jordan. Special guest, Bobby. Bobby, it's nice to meet you on a podcast. I know that we chatted. You're doing epic Mach 26 for the Dolphins with us. Welcome to the station. How are you doing today?
Jim, I'm doing great, man. I'm excited for Epic 26, and I'm excited to be here with you guys, the experts. This is really cool.
Yeah, and Jordan, as we were chatting, this is about week 6 with Draft Professors. It's nice to see you again. How you feeling about the Panthers free agency today?
It was good. It was good. I didn't expect Jalen Phillips. He's been on my watch list since he was in college. Even going back to his UCLA days. I would like to have a linebacker, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay. And Drew, how do you summarize the Saints in free agency today?
Losing Demario Davis sucked, but outside of that, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, Travis Etienne is going to be dynamic in Kellen Moore's offense. David Edwards is so underrated and is of massive need. He was probably my number one free agent. I wanted the Saints to sign. And then we got to shed some lights on punters. I mean, the Saints punter, it was just awful all around in 2025. So getting, I believe his name is Ryan Wright, is so good. And yeah, I'm ecstatic with how the Saints have done early.
Cool. And apparently, right as we went live, Buffalo signed a backup quarterback. So Kyle Allen is backing up Josh Allen. I literally found that out after we went live. We are not here to do free agency. If you want a free agency extravaganza, the 7 p.m. podcast the Draft Professors did was licks. We covered 32 teams. We're here to cover some day 3 wide receivers. And one of the things that I wanted to do when I started Draft Professors is I wanted to make sure that we talked about more than the top guys. So, as Drew and Jordan and I were talking about putting the show together, I was like, hey, can we get some day 3 guys? So, Jordan, who is your favorite day 3 wide receiver?
My favorite is probably Jeff Caldwell, and he's the guy I mentioned to you guys earlier. I don't know. I think he's still going to be a day 3 guy, but he's definitely rising up the boards right now. He's a physical freak. I think he measured in at 6'5", 215 at the combine, ran a 4.3, jumped out of the gym. He's just somebody that when you watch the tape at Cincinnati with Thorsby, he was always available. Even if he wasn't open, he threw him open, right? And he made himself available with his athletic ability. So that's one of my favorite things about him. I didn't know he was that good of an athlete on film, but now that I know that, he's definitely rose up my board. So, yeah, he's definitely my favorite guy outside of the top 100.
Okay. So, yeah, and Caldwell had a really good combine. Yeah. Bobby, do you have a day 3 wide receiver that you either want to ask about or talk about?
Yeah, I just love that he brought up Caldwell. That's actually a guy out of Cincinnati that I was looking at today, just because, when you talk about the Miami Dolphins and you see, now what people used to think as a strength for Miami was wide receiver, it's now really very thin. Because you got Malik Washington, you got Taj Washington, you got Jalen Waddle. If he could stay healthy, if he's not traded before the new year, wide receiver is a need. But Miami has a lot of needs. And this draft seems to be, as much as I continue to watch wide receivers, I haven't gotten to Caldwell yet watching film, but I started reading up on him today and making notes on him today. But when you look at wide receiver, it seems like this is a great year to need wide receivers. And I think for Miami, when you listen to Sully talk, the general manager, John Eric Sullivan, he talks about size. Speed in the cold, speed could get slow, but you can never get small. So I've been looking at a lot of big wide receivers over 6'1", 6'2". This guy's 6'5", and he jumped out. Another one is obviously that I would love to know from your guys' opinion. I'm about to start watching him as well, is Jacoby Lane out of USC. Another one is out of Florida. Was it J. Michael Sturdivant?
J. Michael Sturdivant.
Thank you. Thank you.
On my list. Yep.
Oh, talk to me about J. Michael, man.
So J. Michael transferred to Florida from UCLA. He's definitely a speed guy. I think let me see what his measurables were. 6'3", 210, another really good athlete. He's a guy that he can get vertical really well. I liked his tape better at UCLA. I think he was a little bit stagnant at Florida. I don't know if it was a system with Napier and Lagway. I just felt like the whole offense in general the last 2 years was pretty stagnant with them. So I really don't want to hold that against him because his tape at UCLA was really good. And that's why I was really excited for him when he got to Florida with Lagway. But again, he's a great deep ball catcher, fast guy, vertical threat, and he's also big. Like I said, he's 6'3", 210, so he's not small. He can go across the middle. He can catch the ball. I don't think he has a drop issue as well. So somebody definitely to keep an eye on, and probably like the late 5th, early 6th round.
Drew, what do you have on those wide receivers?
I'll first touch on Jeff Caldwell. I'm just not as high on him. He's my wide receiver 23, and going for athletically, he's absurd. Perfect 10.0 RES score, 4.31 40, vertical jump of 42 inches, 11'2" broad jump, just magnificent. And the flashes are 100% there. There are flashes on the tape of impressive route running, using tempo well, and creating a lot of separation. But I just don't see it often enough. There's times where I think he can go completely absent from drives. And despite being 6'5" and being able to jump out of the building, I don't think he's that good of a contested catch threat. That could just be me, but I don't see the hands. I don't see the focus. I just don't see him bringing in those reps consistently. So I don't want to see that improve. And then I hate to just sound like negative, but Bobby brought up Jacoby Lane. I'm about as low as anyone is on Jacoby Lane in this draft. There is, I'd say, about 2 receivers I'm very low on, and I will talk about that, is him and Chris Brazzell. But Jacoby Lane is my wide receiver 21. And similar to Caldwell, amazing athlete. I'm not arguing that. He can box people out well, high points the ball, strong hands. He just knows how to use his size. He's a great threat in the red zone. But he just looks stiff to me while running routes. I mean, I just don't think he will be able to create really any separation at the next level. I think he's going to rely too often on having to go up, high point the ball, and bring it down, which, yeah, it'll translate. He'll be able to do that some. But I don't think he'll be nearly the threat he is while in college. I don't think his explosiveness or top end speed's great, and I think he loses contract on the ball from what I saw when he gets hit. If he's contacted while he's going up for it, I think it's a lot less likely that he'll bring it down. So that's something he needs to work on. But I see the 100%. Like, I see the way that both of them could be a star in the NFL. I'm just not entirely sold on them quite yet.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd like to offer some perspective on a wide receiver being 21 on a board. That's not really low.
No,
that's the definition of this.
There's still some I need to watch. I have 20, I think 6 receivers graded right now.
Yeah.
So they're in relative to that, they are pretty low, but I've graded a lot of the high ones, so I expect them to move up when I get a lot of the other ones.
Yeah. So this is the engineer of the group giving everybody a math lesson. So there's probably going to be 15 wide receivers taken in the top 100. It's going to be 15 plus or minus, depending upon who I talk to. Some people may have 18 wide receivers in their top 100, but I think the floor is 15. So there's also going to be 33 wide receivers drafted. So if you look the draft average, that means that 18 wide receivers are going to go on day 3. And if you're at wide receiver 22, that's the definition of this podcast, right? I think Jacoby Lane in round 4 or 5, if you haven't drafted a wide receiver, that may be a guy that you want to take a shot at. Drew, is there a wide receiver that you're higher on day 3?
Yeah, there's one that me and Anthony, who podcasts, he used podcasts on Saturdays. We've talked about him a lot, and that is Boston College wide receiver Lewis Bond. He doesn't get any hype, and I just don't get it. He is my wide receiver 9, so I'm insanely high. He was a guy that I was keening on all at the Senior Bowl, and egregious snub from the combine, but he's still an absolute big beast. 5'11", 190 pounds. He was the lone bright spot in Boston College this year. I mean, there really wasn't. Without him, their offense would have gone from pitiful to just utterly incompetent. He's really good after the catch, slippery, amazing agility. He's very twitchy, and he can create instant separation with his short area quickness. It's very challenging for a defender to keep up with him with the way he uses tempo. He's got such high IQ. He's always a consistent option for a quarterback. He thrives in the scramble drill. If a quarterback's rolling out of the pocket under duress, always look for Lewis Bond to be right there open in the middle. Now, there are some things about him. He doesn't have elite top end speed, so I don't think he would have ran a 40 at the combine. And if he did, I don't think it would have been anything stellar. He can physicality. If if a ref is letting them play, he really can get caught up, pushed off his routes, get timed up. But still, even with all that, I'm a big fan of Lewis Bond. I just don't think he's getting enough credit.
Okay, so I'm looking at mock draft database. I'm going to give everybody two, and I'm going to be going from the worst to the best on mock draft database because I don't want to snipe too many people from Drew and Jordan and Bobby as they're talking about them. But I'm going to go 414 on mock draft database consensus board is wide receiver Dylan Bell from Georgia. I think he's going to get drafted probably round 6 or 7. But this is a day 3 wide receiver that is going to be wide receiver 5 in your wide receiver room. He's going to play special teams, and he's going to be a red zone target. So don't have his height and weight immediately in front of me, but I do remember the scouting report said he's your red zone wide receiver. You may not use him between the 20s, but you get inside the 20, he's going to be like having an athletic tight end. In a wide receiver's body, he's going to be able to play special teams for you. So that's Dylan Bell, wide receiver, Georgia, 414 on mock draft database. Right ahead of him is wide receiver Kendrick Law from Kentucky. Okay, there are draft professors with a day 2 grade on Kendrick Law. Why he's still 399 on the consensus big board, beyond me. But Kendrick Law, really good route runner, not a lot of production, but check out the Kentucky quarterbacks. There's a reason that there's not a lot of production there, but this is going to be a wide receiver that, again, you're going to add him to your room. He's going to be a wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4 when you draft him, but give him a year in your system and you can see what happens in year 2 or year 3. Jordan, you have another day 3 wide receiver for everybody.
Yeah, I like the kid out of Iowa, Caden Whitgen. He is so when I scout Caden Whitgen, not really somebody that I'm like, yeah, he's going to be wide receiver 3 or 4 in my wide receiver room, right? He's somebody that is going to bring a different dynamic to your team. He's going to be a special teams ace. He's going to be your punt returner, your kick returner, somebody that, you know, on those very Hunter Renfrow-ish on those third downs where he can catch a little 2-yard pass to move the sticks on those short downs. So he's not somebody that's gonna wow you with his athleticism, but he is so shifty in the return game. It's one of the first things that I noticed about him when I was watching an Iowa game, and I was like, who is this kid? And yeah, he's actually one of the better punt kickoff returners in the nation. So he definitely caught my eye. So that's Caden Whitgen out of Iowa. He's about 5'9", 185.
I'll comment on Whitgen quick. Yeah, as a Nebraska native, I'm very slow to praise Iowa for anything. But Caden Whitgen, he's so explosive, so dynamic. I really like the player. And even if, he's still pretty raw as a receiver, in my opinion, right now. You saw some at the Shrine Bowl. You saw some potential there, and he did look good in some of those reps. So you have hope, but at his floor, he's just going to be so good on special teams that I really don't know if I see him falling past the 6th round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bobby, you have another one.
Well, no, I just love NDSU Nation there bringing up Bryce Lance. That's another guy who I have written down, and I'm excited to look at. Obviously, I didn't even realize it was Trey Lance's brother, and I was like, oh, well, there you go, cool. So, he's on my list to start watching, and I'm excited to watch it. But maybe I'm going to cheat a little bit, and Drew, I'd love to get your, and obviously Jordan as well, get your opinion on Bryce Lance.
Mm-hmm. I can start with this. So I mentioned him earlier, Anthony. I podcasted with him for a good amount of weeks, and you won't find anyone higher on both the North Dakota State guys. So I've been exposed to him, and just athletically from that profile, he is absurd. He combines height, weight, speed, and he's such a good deep threat in North Dakota State's offense. Cole Payton's go-to guy. I'm actually really excited for his pro day. I want to see him get some more routes in because that was the one area of his game I wasn't entirely sold on was his route running, but I do see a lot of potential behind him, and I'm a big fan of Bryce Lance.
Yeah, I was really shocked at his size. I didn't know he was as big as he was. He doesn't move like somebody that's 6'3", 215. So great athlete, great deep threat. Reminds me, and this is a really lazy comp because they both went to North Dakota State. Reminds me a lot of Christian Watson. So if you've seen the Packers and Christian Watson, the biggest knock on him is his health, because when he's out there, he is a great asset to have. I know my Panthers tried to trade for him back in 2023, so I definitely honed in on him a little bit there. But great deep threat, Bryce Lance. Like you said, Cole Payton's the number one guy. I would like to see his route tree be a little bit more advanced. But again, I think he's more of a raw prospect. Not that he can't come in and impact the team on day one, but it's like he uses his athleticism more to win right now, whereas you can see the abilities of him being a good route runner is definitely in the toolbox for him down the road.
A name I want to bring up. Actually, I want another one that I have on there. Not big. I think it's like 5'9", but it's like I think 4.2. What it was, Brennan Thompson. And that's what I would like to, because obviously, what I'm thinking selfishly as a Dolphins fan is that I want size, but Tyreek is not the biggest, the tallest, whatever, but he is the fastest. And we get now Tyreek is gone, and do you want to replace that? Brennan Thompson, Jordan, man, you seem so knowledgeable. Drew, I heard from Drew, and I was like, I got hit by a professor. I was like, dang, when he was on the show, it was great. I think he's the one to open my eyes to Cole Payton. He's like, you got to look at Cole Payton. So shout out to Drew. But Jordan, do you have anything on Brennan Thompson, man? I know he's smaller than the guys we're talking about, but speed-wise, how is he as a playmaker?
So he's, again, like you said with Lewis Bond, Drew, with Boston College, it's almost the same thing with Brennan Thompson and Mississippi State's offense, because their quarterback play wasn't the greatest. I think if he had, average quarterback play, his numbers would have been through the roof this year in Mississippi State. So it seemed like he was always open downfield, and obviously he's a 4.2 guy. I know people say he's small, but if you can't catch him, can't hit him. So that's one of the biggest things for me. I went and watched him at Charlotte when they played in the bowl game. He was just always open because he's so fast, and he uses his speed really well. I know there's a lot of guys that you see him, they run a 4.3, and it's like, why can't you create separation at the next level? Well, he knows how to use his 4.2 speed, and I think that's coming from his track background as well. So, he's somebody that doesn't really struggle catching the ball. He can go across the middle even though he's smaller, and that's what I appreciate about his game as well. But the big thing for him, he's a deep threat. He's a vertical threat, and he's always going to be open in that aspect unless you're having safety help over the top.
Drew, do you have anything on Brennan Thompson?
Yeah, I have a lot on Brennan Thompson. I really like him. Like, he's my wide receiver, I think, like 17, which, like, once again, it doesn't sound high, but I do really like him for the role he will. My favorite thing about him is that he will require safety help. He can open up an offense so well because he'll pull the safety every time. If the safety doesn't follow him on a go route, that no cornerback in the NFL outside of a handful of guys is going to be able to keep up with him. So he will unclog the middle of the field and just allow the offense to open up a lot. Jordan mentioned his track background. In high school, he ran a 10.22 100-meter dash, which, for reference, if you're not a track guy, that time would have placed him 18th at the 2025 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships. And he ran that in high school. So he's faster now. He is not just one of the fastest guys in college football. He's one of the fastest athletes in college, period. There's really not a lot of people who can go faster than him. He's strong, 305-pound bench, 405-pound squat, good release package, can start and stop on a dime. That, once again, the problems, the frame isn't amazing. He's not a great blocker, and he really can struggle with physicality and not a big route tree. So there's a couple things that you want to see cleaned up. My comp for him is a little bit better separator, Mecole Hardman. So I think he'll kind of have that role where he won't ever be the focal point in offense, but he's going to be a great complementary piece who can open up the deep part of the field.
Yeah, and Brennan Thompson, I want to give a couple shouts out, draft professor shout outs here. So, we covered a whole bunch of wide receivers over the summer. Brennan Thompson was not one of them. Then we start covering game previews. Shout out to Chris Connor, Last Call with Chris podcast. So he comes on
that
Draft
podcast
Professor.
where we talked about
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
one of the first ones I think that you did with us, right?
Yeah, that was probably the second or third podcast I was on.
Yeah. And Chris said, we covered the players in Mississippi State. He says, I think there's something to this Brennan Thompson guy. Right. And that was in October.
Yeah.
Right. So this was midway through the college season. So the next week, Randall Slifer is covering wide receivers. And I had already given, the list for the podcast. I said, Randall, we need to slide one more in. Can you get one more watch in? He got Brennan Thompson, and he says that was by far the best of the 9 wide receivers in that show. He's right. So that was the highest day 3 grade Randall could give. So the biggest knock on Brennan Thompson is going to be size. Now, he's physical for being a small player. So it's not that he's a timid player. He's just small relative to NFL standards. Highly explosive, highly twitchy. So on the consensus board, Brennan Thompson is 104. When we're doing mock drafts at the Draft Professor, I have seen a few people taking him round 3, but everybody else will be round 4. And if you think back to last year's draft, one of the things the NFL told us is that if you run a 4.3 40 or faster, Brennan Thompson's in that category, you're not getting out of round 4. There was a huge run on wide receivers last year from mid round 3 to the end of round 4. That's where Isaac Tesla went, Arian Smith went, and there were a bunch of other wide receivers that my team was looking for a fast wide receiver, and they were all gone by round 5. There were none there. So that's a good call out there, Bobby. Drew, do you have another day 3 wide receiver for us?
Yeah, I'll go with my wide receiver 10, and that's Ole Miss wide receiver Dazon Stribling. I'm a huge fan of his, and I really like a lot of what he can do. He popped to the NFL Combine, 9.9 RAS score. He ran a 4.36 40, 36-inch vertical jump, and a 10'7" broad jump, all at 6'2", 207 pounds. So he's an X receiver. He's got great vertical speed. He's insanely hard to bring down after the catch. He's slippery. He can break tackles. He's got a full repertoire of moves he can implement. So I really like that about him. He's a very willing blocker on the perimeter. If he's someone that you want out there, if you're doing an outside zone run, he waits to bring his hands up until the last moment in contested catch situations. You see him on a streak route or on a fade. He won't put his hands up until the ball is right there, which helps the defender or helps the defender not know when the ball is coming, and that just helps him bring down those catches more. He's got really good stem technique while he's running routes, especially slant routes. He can expertly set a defender up to the outside and cut right inside. Now, the issues with him, so it's like you're kind of watching 2 fairly different players when he's at Ole Miss and his film at Oklahoma State. After watching Ole Miss, I was kind of skeptical about his route running. I wasn't entirely sold on it. I had a lot of questions, and that's this year. But then I went back to last year and said, maybe it's a scheme issue. We know Ole Miss has a very distinct scheme where they only really read one side of the field. So I'm like, let's go back, watch Oklahoma State. And I thought his tape there was so much better. I was completely sold on the route running. I saw flashes, and I think if that's the receiver you're getting, he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in an offense. My player comp for him is a more athletic and higher upside version of Josh Reynolds. So he was a Lions receiver, veteran receiver, 600 yards a season, basically. I think he can get to that level where he's just a solid contributor. He'll be in the NFL for a long time. I don't know if he's ever going to be the wide receiver 1 for a team or be the focal point in offense, but he's just going to be a really good complementary piece who can elevate your offense.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple things on Dazon Stribling. So first of all, Drew, I think you did that really well because you mentioned Oklahoma State. So I think there's several data points with Ole Miss. Ole Miss had major quarterback issues at the beginning of this year. So Stribling played really well in the playoffs. So look at the college football playoffs that was after Lane Kiffin left. And after Lane Kiffin left, Stribling got unlocked a little bit in Ole Miss. We go back to the Oklahoma State tape, like Drew said. But in addition to that, Drew also mentioned that he was an X. But Stribling has played in the slot and in the backfield. Like, this is a guy that some offensive coordinator might say, I could get a little bit of Debo out of him. I could put him in the backfield. I could use him as a weapon. So on the consensus board at Mock Draft Database, Stribling is 185. I have a hard time seeing Stribling getting out of round 4.
I don't think getting out of day 2.
Yeah, and then
It's
him
gonna be a
going
big
day 2, I think is very in the cards. Jordan, did you have something to say, or you're just stretching your shoulder?
I was just stretching. You're good.
So, Jordan, do you have another sleeper at wide receiver you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think you had put him in the chat. He's my wide receiver 10, Deion Burks out of Oklahoma. I think he's a very fluid guy in his routes. The biggest knock for me on him, we saw him run a 4.3 at the combine. It was great. He had a great showing. I don't see it as much on the field that I would like to. Right, in open field, yes, I see it. But for me, it's like, hey, when you're running a dig, I'm not seeing you that 4.3 speed on the dig, right? And you plant your foot. So that's one thing that he needs to work on and do better at. He doesn't really attack the ball as well. He is a smaller guy, so I get that. But at the same time, I want you to attack the ball when the ball, like on comeback routes, he waits for the ball to come to him. And in the NFL, the next level, DBs are going to attack the ball and they're going to take it away. Even though you were open in that moment, if you come back to the ball, it's in your hands. DBs are going to take it away because he sits and waits for it a little bit sometimes. And then on deep routes, on go routes and stuff like that, he will turn his head a little bit earlier. And that's something that I noticed when I was doing film with another podcaster. They pointed out to me, he would turn his head a little bit before the ball's getting there to kind of give that DB some moment. So the DB sees the ball coming, right? Because he turns his head and he puts his hand up at the last minute. If he, like Drew said, if he trusts his hands and he just puts it out last minute, that's a catch. But just small nitpicky things that I noticed with him. But again, he's very crafty. He's a crafty runner. My comp for him is Wan'Dale Robinson, who's now a Tennessee Titan, like I called. But yeah, so he does have good footwork off the line of scrimmage, which I appreciate with him. So yeah, I think the combine is going to boost him a little bit, but there's definitely some stuff that he needs to work on that probably will keep him out of day 2.
Yeah, and Deion Burks he didn't have very effective quarterback play.
Yeah,
right.
Injury. Yeah,
It's just dysfunctional.
Yeah. And we've been covering Deion Burks on this station for 2 years because we were covering him for last year's draft and he went back to school.
Yeah,
I think the potential of Deion Burks in many ways is why we're still talking about him. This is a really good athlete.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned Jordan, he did really well at the combine. And if you check, like there were some draft professors, Newt and Owen, that were predicting that he was going to blow up the combine, which he did. So really good combine, really athletic wide receiver. I don't think he gets out of round 5 because if somebody needs an athletic wide receiver, like if you need a really diet version of Tyreek Hill, it's Deion Burks.
Yeah.
But
like
that's
that.
a lot of diet.
It's a lot of diet.
Yeah.
I like that. We all know with the Hurricanes, Malachi Toney, right? When it was hard to not see him on the go, that guy, we talk about Tyreek Hill. I mean, that guy jumps out of your screen. But like an unsung hero of the Hurricanes, to me, was CJ Daniels, 6'2", 206, I think, or 208, playmaker, vertical. He could make a big play. Jim, I'm going to ask you. You're the master. You're the CEO. What are your thoughts on CJ Daniels?
Well, and I think what's going to hurt CJ Daniels is going to be his injury history and his age.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to keep him on day 3. But you're getting a wide receiver that can likely contribute as a wide receiver 3 or a wide receiver 4 as a rookie. So as long as you're comfortable drafting CJ Daniels and having him be part of a room, he's not going to be your guy. But I mean, I remember, I think it was the Miami Notre Dame game. I think it was early in the season. I believe he had a really big touchdown catch. And then he had several other big catches during the year. So there are draft professors that are saying it's day 2 tape, but a day 3 draft grade just because of the age and the injuries. But Drew, what do you think of CJ Daniels?
My favorite thing about CJ Daniels, Bobby mentioned it, is how he does all of the little things correct. He is so wise. He does all the unsung things when the lights aren't on. There's one play in the national title game. It was on that long Mark Fletcher run that resulted in a touchdown. I posted a clip of it on my Twitter. CJ Daniels had one of the best blocks I've seen from a wide receiver, completely taking his man out of the play, and was the reason that play resulted in a touchdown. He does that. Teammates have raved about his leadership in the locker room. He took Malachi Toney and the rest of that young Miami receiving group under his belt, and he helped develop them. So I absolutely love it when a receiver can do that, and he's just going to be so good for a locker room. He's going to be so good at helping to develop a culture. Yeah, he's older. I don't think he's an amazing route runner, and it won't be a major threat after contact. But he's someone that every offense is going to want to have on their team. He can still impact the game as well. It's not like he's someone who's ineffective on the field. He's got good speed and athleticism, good height, understands how to find open gaps, high IQ player. I'm a big fan of CJ Daniels. He might, in not my opinion, he won't ever reach day 2, early day 2, stuff like that. And he won't be a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. But he's just going to be someone every team will want just for all the little things he does so well.
Yeah, he plays with really good tempo, flashes late hands, which is, a key component of being an NFL wide receiver. Uses his body really well in contested catch radius. I think, like, you talk about somebody like a Van Jefferson. I think he could fit that role at the next level, where he's not the number 1 guy, but there's going to be 1 or 2 games in a 3-year span where he has 100 yards, and you're like, wow, didn't expect that. But like Drew said, he's going to be somebody you always want on your roster.
Yep. I want to shout out 2 more guys that are really low on the consensus board. Ironically, both of them go to LSU. So Xavier Thomas is 350 on the consensus board. Chris Hilton is 299 on the consensus board. So remember what I said. If a wide receiver runs a 4.3 40, I would have a hard time imagining them getting out of round 4. Okay. And these are guys that on the consensus board don't even have a draftable grade. So I want to specifically shout out Chris Hilton, LSU wide receiver. And I want to shout out Noah Tingle, who's an LSU podcaster. So Noah came on a Draft Professor podcast in July. And we were talking about Barian Brown. We were talking about Aaron Anderson, and LSU had one other wide receiver, and I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't Chris Hilton. And Noah said, how come you're not talking about Chris Hilton? Chris Hilton, he said, is the wide receiver that's doing everything at LSU that you want an NFL wide receiver to do. He blocks. He's a great athlete. So you're drafting Chris Hilton. He's going to come in. He's going to be able to be a wide receiver 5. That means he's going to be able to play every special team that you have. And if he can work on other parts of his game, he's going to work his way into your offense. So it's also funny because I had him on the list for Randall Slifer to evaluate. And his message to me was, Jim, how did Chris Hilton make this list? And Randall erased it because he didn't have a lot of stats this year. I think he only had 10 catches. Right. But I believe he was at the Senior Bowl. He had a much better Senior Bowl. But Chris Hilton on the consensus board is 299. He's going to get drafted. I am willing to bet somebody a beverage that he gets drafted. It might be round 5, 6, 7, but receivers this fast don't go undrafted. So either of you guys have anything on Chris Hilton?
I do not.
Bobby, you have any other wide receivers that are day 3 sleepers for us?
Honestly, I don't. But I have a question I'd like to ask. Talk about day 3 wide receivers under top 100. I guess if you want to skim the top 100, but who is that one guy? Maybe it's one of the guys we discussed. But who is that one guy that is in that under that top 100 that you look at and you go, you know what? Yeah, there's a reason why he's there. Like you said, Jim, he could be wide receiver 4 or 5. But who has the potential that it's that late round pick to be a number one guy? Who is that you see that you go, man, if he's in the right place at the right time with the right quarterback and the right system, this guy could end up being a steal and a number one guy?
I can start. I was trashed on this player earlier, but the first player that comes to mind is Jacoby Lane. For me, yeah, I don't see a lot of his route running, but if you just look at the pure athleticism, the given production, his hands, and what he could be as a route runner, I think he would definitely qualify as that. I've talked about a lot of the guys I love, the Lewis Bonds, the DeZon Striblings, and I do love them, but I don't think they're ever going to be the number one option, while like Lane could be. So I'd go him. I think Jeff Caldwell is another one worth mentioning, that if everything goes to develop, if he can work on his route running, if he can be more consistent, could also be in that lane.
Jordan, do you have one?
Yeah, my guy is Josh Cameron out of Baylor. 6'2", about 223, I think he is. Very compact guy. He can win. He can win off the line of scrimmage. You're not going to be able to press him at all. So that's one of the big things for me. Strong, reliable hands. Doesn't really have a ton of drop issues. He was just and Baylor had a good offense this year. I'm really shocked why he's not higher on a lot of people's boards. So he's better when the ball in his hands, obviously. So, if you get the ball in his hands early and often, he's going to make plays regardless of where it's at on the field. You can throw him the screen, tunnel screen. He can make plays off that. He can go get the ball deep. He's a deep ball guy, slants. I just really like that type of build that he has. I think it's going to be able to succeed at the next level. And like you said, if he's put in the right system, I think he'll be very effective.
Yeah, I've got another one. And again, shout out to Randall Slifer, because I know this is one of his day 3 guys, but it's Malik Benson from Oregon. So again, interesting story with Malik Benson, because we were kind of tracking him during the year, but he didn't have the best beginning of the year. So when Randall first evaluated him, he's like, well, athletic wide receiver, round 6, 7. And this is in October. We maybe even covered him the same day we did Brennan Thompson. But then Oregon had some wide receiver injuries. So he got more snaps. So there was a middle part of the year, like in October, November, where Benson had some really good games.
The Washington game.
Yeah. So Malik Benson tested really well at the combine.
Yep.
Really good tape in the games that he played. You don't want him to be your blocker. He's not going to be a wide receiver that's go. So if your team likes wide receivers that block, Malik Benson might be the antithesis to that. But if you're just looking for that athletic wide receiver that can stretch a team vertically and can do some damage on the outside, Malik Benson from Oregon, I think, deserves a shout out. And he's 252 on the consensus board right now, but there's a lot of us that are taking him in round 4 of mock drafts.
Yeah,
So,
I think his track background is something that is definitely going to make him. I would warn people not to look at his stats and say, well, he wasn't productive. I think it's the same way with Kenyon Sadiq a little bit. Kenyon Sadiq had 500 yards at Oregon. It's because Oregon had so much talent on the offensive side of the ball that they were just spreading the ball out everywhere. So Malik Benson probably didn't have the stats that he wanted in his senior year, but at the same time, like Jim said, he didn't have as many opportunities. I think if he went somewhere where he was more prominent in the offensive role, number one guy, his offensive production would have skyrocketed. So, he's definitely a deep threat and somebody that I would love for the Panthers to draft.
Yep. And there's a couple of other guys on the consensus board I'd like to give a shout out to. Chase Roberts, come on down. So Chase Roberts, wide receiver from BYU. He is 254 on the consensus big board. Chase Roberts is going to be drafted very similar to what I said about Chris Hilton or Colby Young. He's going to be able to be a 4-phase special teams player. So we know that Chase Roberts is going to be able to be a special teams player at the NFL. He'll be able to make a roster on that, but there's also something to his game to where he can be that wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 opposite of a guy. He'll be able to play the X spot, so that you can move your other guy around. So I wanted to give a shout out to Malik Benson. Drew, do you have another day 3 wide receiver you want to talk about?
I got one more that I'll bring up, and that's we've talked about Jeff Caldwell, the Cincinnati receiver. I'm going to go to the other Cincinnati receiver, and Cyrus Allen. 5'11", 1/8, 180 pounds. He shined at the Senior Bowl. That's kind of where I first got eyes on him. He had some amazing zig routes, especially. He was absolutely torching receivers. A lot of his wins on offense comes from his elite route running. He's very crafty. He sells double moves so well. He's got sharp routes. He threatens defenders deep, which causes them to have to respect that. And then he can throttle down in an instant, which helps them get open a lot. He knows how to stem defenders well. He's got very reliable hands, 2% drop rate, good acceleration off the line. So I do love a lot of that about him. But now he's a subpar blocker, and it's to the point where Cincinnati is hardly using him on first or second downs, or first downs especially, and he can kind of be an indication that it's a pass if he's on the field. So he needs to improve on that, and struggles with physicalities. The other big note I have written, just really if a defender's press coverage on him, he's got a good release package, but if they get their hands, he's on the slot, but he can struggle with that. So I do like a lot of what I see from Cyrus Allen. I think he can be a good slot receiver in the NFL, but there definitely is some concerns I have about his blocking.
Okay. Jordan, do you have another day 3 wide receiver?
Yeah, Eric Rivers out of Georgia Tech is another guy I like. He's smaller. He's 5'10", 175. So that's going to limit him at the next level. I know he was more of a Z guy at Georgia Tech, but he's probably going to be moved to the slot predominantly at the next level. So I like his ability against man coverage. Even at his size, he attacks man coverage really well off the line of scrimmage. Now, that might change at the next level when cornerbacks are bigger, stronger, faster. So we'll see. But he attacks off the line of scrimmage like a bat out of hell. And that's one thing I really like about him. He has really good hands across the middle. You could use him in those gadget roles. I think you put him in motion and watch him just do work is one really, really fun thing for me as I watched him at Georgia Tech, which with Haynes King. I think that was one of the more fun offenses in the ACC for me this year, was watching him be utilized in different areas on that offense.
Okay. Drew, anything to add?
I think he kind of wrapped it up. I didn't watch Eric Rivers in a couple of months, so he's definitely one that I kind of want to circle back to.
Okay, so I think out of all the wide receivers, the next 3 all have something in common. So the next 3 that I'm going to talk about are Barian Brown from LSU, Caden Wetjen from Iowa, and Colin Lacey from Louisville. What all 3 of those wide receivers have in common is that they're going to get drafted on day 3. I'm confident in saying that because they are kick return aces.
You forgot one, Emmanuel Henderson Jr. from Kansas. Coming from someone who's watched every game of them, he's a great kick returner.
Panthers met with him at the Shrine Bowl, so yeah, he's
a lot to be improved as a receiver. His ball tracking definitely needs work, but he's going to get drafted as a really good kick returner.
So I'm looking to see where he is on the consensus
He's like
board.
330. I have it up. He's 368.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I'd be surprised if he didn't get drafted, or at the very least, he's a priority UDFA.
UDFA, yeah.
So I don't remember if Emmanuel Henderson was included in the kick return show that we did. Mm-hmm. We definitely talked about Caden Wetjen from Iowa. We definitely talked about Barian Brown from LSU and Colin Lacey from Louisville. And in fairness, Taylor's a Kansas State guy, so he might not talk about the Kansas guy.
Well, is that who I'm doing the Big 12 show with?
It is. Oh yeah.
We are going to have some. We are going to.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
KU student and a K-State podcaster. It's going to be. There's going to be some interesting conversations on that.
So, Drew, when I was putting the Big 12 together, every single time I see your name and Taylor's name next to each other, it brings a smile to my face.
Yeah,
because I know that dynamic's going to exist. You're both really good podcasters. Like,
We both
you know,
hate the other teams. The hate the other team
Yeah.
at school. So
yeah, the
Little
same way that
validation.
you say, like, you talk about a player from Missouri, you know that he has to be good. If you talk about a player from Missouri, you and Taylor are going to fit right in when you guys work together over the summer. But let's get back to Caden Wetjen from Iowa. This is a really dynamic kick returner. Colin Lacey from Louisville. I believe Lacey has had a kickoff return or a punt return for a touchdown in 3 straight years. And then when Chris Bell got injured, we saw a little bit more from Lacey as a wide receiver. So those two, and then Barry and Brown also, I believe he's had kickoff or punt returns for touchdowns in 3 straight years. In addition to that, Barry and Brown was close to unguardable at the Senior Bowl. So these are receivers that are probably going to go around 6 or 7. Right? You don't draft a kickoff returner high, but I think they're going to make a 53-player roster. So, I know, Bobby, your Charger was going. You got everything squared away back.
I don't know. I don't know what the heck is going on, but it's acting up on me here. It's saying I got 34%, but it's connected. So I said, I wrote in the private chat there, if I drop out, I promise I'm not being rude. I got kicked out. So I'm here as long as I can be. So.
No, I understand. So
Apologize.
we have battery issues. We have cats that are like knocking over microphones. You know, it's Draft Professor. So apparently,
it's what happens when you go live. You know, you're live.
Yes,
you know, it's not recorded, folks.
So, does anybody have any more day 3 wide receivers that they would like to discuss? Okay. Do you guys want to do some Dolphins mock drafts with Bobby?
Yeah.
Let's roll.
So, Bobby, we have a very unique mock draft simulator at the Draft Professor. So we're going to start you off with a first round challenge. So we're going to go through 5 1-round drafts for your Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
What do you want Miami to accomplish in your draft this year?
Well, for me, I want them just to come away. Like, obviously, you want hits. You want guys who can start. I just want guys who can contribute. I don't want guys that get drafted and, you know, maybe they're gone before the end of the preseason. I want contributors. I want, you know, in round 3, you got 3 third-round picks. Get guys who could contribute day 1. Get guys who contribute throughout the season. Rotational guys. That's what I'm looking for the Miami Dolphins this year.
Okay. So round 1 is Mendoza, Reese, Maui Noah, Bain, Tate, Freeling, Downs, Styles, Bailey, Banks. Drew, are you okay with Styles at 8?
that's my number 1 prospect for the Saints by a good margin. I am all in on Sonny Styles. We lost Demario Davis today in a heartbreaking move. Give me Sonny Styles just with everything I have. That's all I want.
Okay. So, Bobby, if the draft went this way, who do you like for Miami here?
So there are actually 4 names that I'm looking at here. And the 2 top ones right there, Mansour Delane and Jamar McCoy. Think about Miami in the secondary. They just traded away Minka Fitzpatrick, the safety. They traded him to the Jets. They're just trying to save money for a 7th-round pick. What the hell? But they did. They got him to the Jets. And they need help in the secondary whatsoever. Now they could bring back Rasul Douglas. They could bring back Kader Kohu. And maybe they could wait on a corner in rounds 2 or possibly 3. Jordan Tyson is still sitting there. Spencer Fanu. You think about what's going on with the right tackle with Austin Jackson. Does he come back or is he a cap casualty? Does he get moved? So do you go tackle early? And again, we talked about wide receiver. We've been talking about wide receiver all day. We talked about the reason why we could pass a wide receiver at this point. So the 4 names I'm looking at, again, Fanu, Jordan Tyson, or McCoy or Delane there. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
That's
And which
cornerback.
one is your BPA out of those 4?
Spencer Fanu.
Okay, so we'll go Fano. Okay, the simulator's immediately going to start another 1-round draft. But this time, Fano is sniped before your pick.
Ah, okay.
And I'm looking to see, because is Caleb Downs here? No, he went. So I'm looking to see who dropped. I wasn't paying close enough attention to see who Washington was taking. You know who it is?
Jeremiah Love.
Love is here. Yep. So in this situation, you can't take Fano. What do you do?
In this situation, at least for me, my BP at this point is Jordan Tyson. So I'd go Jordan Tyson here.
Okay.
Jordan Tyson, FC, stand up.
Oh, yeah. That's my wide receiver, too. I love him. I think he'll be healthy at some point in his career. So if he is, he's going to be absolutely insane. So I really like him.
Yeah.
So if Fano and Tyson are here, this time Monroe Freeling dropped, what would you do?
So, I mean, this kind of seems like where my board is. Freeling, I really like. You know, you could put him on the left side, you could put him on the right side. He moves so freely. I think, you know, it's I love versatility. I love guys that you could plug and play anywhere. A guy goes down, you move that guy, you stash him, and just keep going. And I know how important offensive line is, and I know people are going to say, oh, but Green Bay doesn't do this and Green Bay doesn't do that. I get it. But I'm going to stay with one of the corners here, and I'm going to go with Mansour Delane.
So, Jordan, how high are you on Delane?
So, Delane's my cornerback 3 in this class. So, he's still a top 25 prospect for me. I think he's probably the best fit for Miami with Jeff coming from Green Bay, because he does like those smaller cornerbacks that thrive in a more zone coverage. So I think Mansour is probably the best fit for Miami out of the 3 cornerbacks. But I wouldn't hate Terrell or McCoy. I think 13 is a little bit rich for Terrell on the consensus board. And then McCoy, with the injury history that he has, I think he's fine. You just never want your first pick as a new head coach, new GM, to be a guy coming off an ACL injury. So,
yeah. Mansour is my cornerback 5, which kind of sounds a little bit crazy. I think he's good at everything. I don't think he's great at a lot. I think he's going to be an amazing player at the NFL, but I just don't quite see the upside. I'm very high on Keith Abney. Keith Abney and D'Angelo Pons both. I think Keith Abney is let's say you like versatility. I raise you Keith Abney. Play on the outside, play on the inside. You can play really everywhere. Going to be locked down in coverage, especially man. So I don't know if he'd be the best fit for the Dolphins, but I do love Keith Abney. I don't care about the size.
You're a wordsmith, Drew. I'll tell you that, man. It's like how he puts it all together. It's awesome, man.
Thank you.
So, Bobby, if Fano, Tyson, and Delane are off the board at 11, David Bailey dropped in this one, and Freeling is also here. What would you do?
This one I'm going Freeling. I'm going Freeling here. Again, plug and play anywhere, but you can put him on the right side. You can move on the left side, even though Patrick Paul's done great for Miami. And there goes Freeling right there.
Okay, and then the 5th one, Fano, Tyson, Delane, Freeling are sniped before your pick. Sonny Styles is here, so is Ruben Bain. What do you do?
I've said it many times, and my co-host on the Finstock Draft Show on the clock, he is on the whole other side of this. But if Ruben Bain is on the board, now he is a Cowboy, by the way, but I'm the Dolphin guy. But if Ruben Bain's on the board, and I really love Sonny Styles, but if Ruben Bain's on the board, maybe it's biased. I'm running to the board for Ruben Bain. Pair him with Chop Robinson, I'm golden.
Yeah.
Jordan, where is Ruben Bain for you on your board?
So he's still a top 10 prospect for me. The arm length is a little bit concerning, but it doesn't show up on film. So I really like the way he plays with his plays with strength and plays with leverage. I think it could give him issues at the next level. But you look at there have been guys. He's going to be an outlier, but there were some teams that said he had a 32-inch arm. Some teams said he had a 30-inch arm. So you don't know for sure. And some teams are going to measure him at 32, and they're going to get a steal because he's going to fall.
Yep.
I think he's a top 5 prospect in this class. If you look at the film, all 3 years while he was at Miami, he was a dominant force. all 3 years, even as a freshman. I think his freshman year was probably one of his better years. Obviously, he exceeded that this year, but that he's been high on my draft board ever since his freshman year at Miami. So yeah, I think if you can get him at 13, or is it 11?
11, yeah.
You can get him at 11. I think that's an absolute steal.
So we did a podcast the Sunday after the combine, or I guess the combine was still going on, but that Sunday, and we were talking about the measurement issues specifically, and we were hypothesizing like how to fix the measurements, because I'm an engineer. I had to take a class in measurement in college. Like, how do you standardize your measurement so that whenever you measure, it's consistent? So like, where do you measure arm length, right? Because, you could go here, right? There's more than one spot. I said, you have to use the spinal column because it's the middle for everybody. And then Eric Smith, who's actually another Dolphins podcaster that's come on, he even pointed out, like, if you look at your hand, arm length doesn't matter, like how long my hand is, right? Because the hand's going to bend. You want to focus more on like this part of the wrist. So he's even saying that, are you measuring it to the tip of the correct finger? And then it doesn't matter because we should be measuring it to the wrist, not to the fingers anyway. So Eric was watching the podcast, and we were just having a lot of fun talking about how to measure. And I thought that was funny. So this has been a pretty good show. Bobby, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to introduce yourself to the Draft Professor audience and tell them about your podcasts and anything else that you do content creation wise?
Yeah. So first off, no, thank you, Jim, for having me on here. This is awesome. You guys are awesome. Jordan, getting to meet you, man. You're knowledgeable. Love to spend more time with you. Drew, as always, really appreciate you. With FTSN, Fins Talk Sports Network. Yes, it's Fins Talk Sports Network. You think Dolphins, that's how it started. But we cover basketball, we cover baseball, we cover pro wrestling, we cover the draft, we cover everything on FTSN. So if you love any of that stuff, come check out the channel, come subscribe. I'm really excited about representing the Miami Dolphins for Epic Mock. It's like, it seems like a real big deal. I'm like, it's fun because it's a mock draft, but it's like 3 days, hours, like which we cover, that we watch, we do the whole draft. We got a whole team of guys that we cover the draft, each pick, and we react to everything. So, I'm Jim, when you said it, I was like, I've done that, but it's different. It's a mock draft. It's gonna be interesting to talk to everybody and react. So I'm excited for that. So yeah, guys, thank you all for letting me come on here and learn from you. And I'd love to come back and appreciate you guys.
Awesome. Well, Bobby, love having you. And I'll talk a little bit about Epic Mock when it's my turn. But Jordan, you want to let everybody know about you and where all of your stuff is?
Yeah. So right now, big on Twitter at Panthers Pulse. Big Panthers fan. Follow the Panthers, but obviously, like Bobby said, I talk about the NFL. I talk about college. I don't really have any bias. Obviously, I have rivals in the NFL, but I don't really. I like to keep an open mind. Like right now, watching free agency go on, I'm really impressed by the Saints and how Kellen Moore has really built that team over the last year. I think their offense is going to be dynamic next year. If everybody can stay healthy with Juwan Johnson and now Travis Etienne, I think they're going to be a really good team. So, but yeah, like I said, Panthers Pulse on Twitter. Come follow me. If you like the Panthers, if you want to talk about the Panthers, Anthony Russo, I really hope that's accurate. I haven't checked because my phone's on Do Not Disturb.
Anthony Russo's a draft professor. He's not trolling.
It is, yeah.
Drew and I know exactly who that is.
3-year, $45 million deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Snipe the Saints. Come on.
That's well. Now you guys get Sonny. Hopefully you get Sonny Styles.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
I don't think it will, but I can always hope.
That's a good consolation.
That's a great pickup for you guys. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Jordan, definitely give Anthony a follow. So Anthony is one of the original draft professors. He's usually podcasting on Friday and Saturdays.
Yeah.
But he's had his employer had a paternity leave issue. So he has had to modify his work schedule. Now he podcasts on Sunday nights. but over the summer, he'll be back to Fridays and Saturdays. He's one of the OGs. So this station wouldn't have started without Anthony's help. So, he's highly reliable in his information. And this is where all the Bryce Lance propaganda started.
Yep,
Nice.
that and Cole Payton all started with him.
And Cole Payton, yes. And he'll also tell you who's the Notre Dame cornerback next year.
Leonard Moore.
Leonard Moore.
Yeah, he's not high on Leonard Moore right now.
Oh, okay. I want to hear that. Yeah.
At least with what I read on Twitter. Now, there's still more tape to watch, but apparently the initial watch wasn't as, according to the Twitter, wasn't as good as Anthony was hoping. So, Drew.
Yeah. So my Drew Collings. Follow me on Twitter at Drew M. Collings. I post a lot on there. I'll have a Dazon's dribbling cut up of his film at Ole Miss and Oklahoma State. It's a little bit of a mix of that. So kind of see the differences there. That'll be posted tomorrow, I believe. So go check that out. I post frequently about random draft prospects. I cover the Saints for Who Dat Dish, as well as cover a variety of teams for the NFL draft at Roundtable Sports. So you'll get a really wide array of different teams, different opinions, stuff like that. I have a Saints podcast as well called The Dome Discussions. Then I'm on here every Monday night and Saturday morning.
Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for stopping by. And if you get a moment to hit that subscribe on YouTube, please and thank you. That's the best thank you can give, is to hit that subscribe on YouTube. We're here every day at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. We're here Friday nights. We do group mocks every Friday night. Drew and Jordan have joined those podcasts. I think Jordan has only drafted from the chat, but you're about to podcast, right, Jordan? I think in a couple you're going to be on the other side of the camera.
Yeah.
Drew, I think, has covered 3 of those from the on this side of the camera, so it's already 4. So I got to learn how to count.
3. No, it's 3. Yeah.
Okay, that was 3. Okay.
I think we're at 3. I almost did 4, but I'm not gonna be able to.
You were moving, you moved your how many fingers?
I was like, yeah.
But anyway, so every Friday we do a group mock. So what we do is we put 2 podcasters on camera, and then we have everybody else draft from the chat, and the podcasters discuss their boards and the players that were picked. We cover 100 players in 150 minutes. And it's a lot of fun. We get to learn who's high on Zion Young. We get to learn who's high or low on Lee Hunter, etc. Because if you listen to enough of them, you're going to find out that Lee Hunter going in the top 50 is not consensus opinion. So the mock draft simulator may have him in the top 50 on the board, but not everybody is that high on Lee Hunter. But Grayson Holton, you might be entering the top 50 conversation according to some. So it's one of these things with just give and take between the different boards that we have. That's every Friday. As Drew said, he also podcasts Saturday mornings. That Saturday morning show is lit because, Drew's a journalism major. He's on the podcast with somebody that interned at ESPN, and he's on the podcast with somebody that's on TV in Champaign, Illinois. So
J School Club. We got
so like I'm the amateur out of that group. So Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, you need to check out the show with Tyler, Drew, and Ben. It is a up and coming draft show. I get a warm fuzzy every single Saturday morning. So we're here every day, and then as Bobby mentioned, we have Epic Mock 26 coming up April 9th, 10th, and 11th. That's April 9th, 10th, and 11th. 7-round, 32 podcaster mock draft. Bobby is going to be on his Dolphins podcast, podcasting for the Dolphins. Drew is going to be on his Saints podcast, podcasting for the Saints. And everybody's mock drafting against each other. You will see retired NFL offensive lineman Jerry Ostrowski making the picks for the Buffalo Bills. You will see a former Clemson player making the picks for the Carolina Panthers, right? We have some people that you should get to know. They're all going to be on their own podcast channels. I'll be on the Draft Professor channel with Hank, Ben, and a few others. We'll be discussing every pick. It is going to be the biggest mock draft of the season, and you get it right here on the Draft Professor. Epic Mock 26, April 9th, 10th, and 11th. And then the kicker. This year, after Epic Mock 26 on Sunday night, Anthony Russo on his Sunday night podcast is doing a UDFA podcast. The only players that Anthony is going to talk about on Sunday night are the players that weren't taken in Epic Mock the 3 days before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that's dedication. That's awesome.
That is. And we can do that because we have people like Drew, Jordan, and Anthony that are watching hundreds of prospects, right? So we have a legendary Draft Professor group chat. We talk about the prospects all during the season. Which guy should we watch next? That type of conversation. So there's a lot of draft professors that have really robust boards. We can't just have anybody on the UDFA podcast. It's got to be Anthony Russo, got to be Brian Maffei, because they both have huge databases of players. So that's going to be a podcast that is, we haven't done it before. This is the first year we've done the UDFA podcast. We've done Epic Mock. I can't tell you how many years I've been doing mock drafts like this. It's probably about 8. But this is the first year we're doing a UDFA podcast for. So we come up with new ways to make content. That's what we do, right? But for Drew, Jordan, special guest Bobby, again, thank you for coming on. For the 85 podcasters at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your Monday night. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow. Good night, everybody.